everyone, thank you for joining me here today. This is Fantasy Girl, and I have to say that I am so satisfied with how Shadowbringers ended. Shadowbringers just had to have been one of the best Final Fantasy games, if not one of the best games I've ever played, and I've played a lot over the years. But yeah, unfortunately, Shadowbringers has come to an official end. Technically, it did end with 5.3, and these last two patches were just setting everything up for Endwalkers. I was a little bit disappointed. I guess I wasn't really happy about the pacing of it more than anything. Did it move too fast, and then they just kind of put everything in together, just tying up all kinds of loose ends back here in Eorzea? Yes, it personally felt like that. But then again, that's kind of the point I'm figuring. Because we just kind of have to tie up all the loose ends that we still have in Eorzea, just wrapping up everything for Shadowbringers and everything else up until now, before we can move on to like the major expansion, which is going to be coming out in about 5.5 months, which I'm not happy about, but I will go with it for now. So the thing here is that I really need to wonder more about what is going to be the future about Final Fantasy XIV. And they actually did a couple interviews with Yoshida about not only what's to come after Endwalker, but also a little bit more about Endwalker and the cutscenes and everything that's going to be involved in. So this is what this video is going to be about. So if you want to read those articles, I do have the links down below in the description, so you can go ahead and look them up yourselves. But we'll talk about the first one, which is about how Endwalker is going to be very different than any of the other stories that we've had up until now. So Endwalkers is scheduled to be released on November 23rd, though anyone who pre-orders it will be able to play a little bit early. And it's going to be the most important of all of their expansions, because it's going to be bringing a close to the 11-year story arc that involves so many characters, so many places and nations of Eorzea, and finally we're taking the fight to Garlemald. And apparently it's going to be just so big, just so massive that's the reason why it's going to be taking so long for it to come out. They could not fit it all inside just 3 months of development. They had to go for the full 6 months. Now, during the interview, Yoshida was asked about the Endwalker and how it compares to Shadowbringers in terms of the story and the cutscenes. And they actually came out and admitted that the amount has been increased by 1.3 times more. So, in other words, there's going to be 30% more storyline, more cutscenes, more lore, all mixed together. So this is going to be big just based on that, because in fact, there was so much of it. Yoshida said that there were times that they were worried that they weren't even going to be able to finish because they're biting off more than they could chew. According to Yoshida, when we were looking at it, I honestly thought it would be too big. It was too much and would become more critical on our schedule. So I considered if we needed to shave off some of the plot that was being unraveled here, but considering how we've had to make more adjustments to shave off any parts of the story, and that would mean even more work, I made the decision to push forward with what we have. So really, there's just so much all kind of like integrated into each other that they decided that it would just be easier if they just went ahead and just put everything in it, just leave it as it is and not try to cut anything out. So that's the reason why it's so much bigger than what anyone was expecting. Which, it makes sense because Endwalker is supposed to be the ending to the Hydaelyn and Zodiac story, something that people have been trying to find out more about for years. But don't worry, just because there are going to be a lot more cutscenes and lore, that does not mean that they are going to be cutting out anything of the battle, like any of the dungeons or trials. That will still be there. They're never going to decrease the number either. They did say that the number of dungeons that they have in Endwalker will be the same as in Shadowbringers, so we've got plenty coming for us. But the amount of work they put into it has increased for sure, such as some background environments, mechanics, and even some of the battle presentations. They just had to put more into these different elements that go into the context than they did with previous games. And because of that, they feel it's going to be a much more robust experience than the previous installments. But because Endwalker is going to be the finale to an 11-year story with Hydaelyn and Zodiac, it's going to be going through a lot of changes and a lot of new updates. They are really bringing their all for this particular game. But what they're going to be focusing most on are the side story quests and characters, and Yoshida has come out and said that he's really hoping that's going to blow fans away. They want people to get invested in this. They want them to experience when they're playing through the game and just really hit the characters like on an emotional level, just connect with them in a way that's you don't expect from an RPG. So it's anyone's guess what's going to happen in Endwalker, and when asked about this, Yoshida explained that with the 10-year plus history, we were able to tie up a lot of loose ends, and with the climax there, there'll be more questions that are answered and people will understand the reasoning behind a lot of things that have been present throughout the story. It was originally decided that the story between Hydaelyn, Zodiark, and the Ascians was going to end in 7.0. However, it was decided that it was about time that we did put an end to the story between Hydaelyn and Zodiark, and so that the characters can finally get the closure that they need, and the players can move on from after that. As for what comes after Endwalkers, Yoshi-P was asked about that as well. And his words were, there are areas within planet Hydaelyn that we haven't explored yet. There are continents that have yet to be discovered, areas that have yet to be explored, and there's countless possibilities there. With the story of Shadowbringers, we learned that the Crystal Tower acts as a portal not just to distant realms, including the First and those who have been divided by the Sundered, but it also allows us to travel in time as well, so we can go back to the future and past as well. So there's still a lot of possibilities left. So while that is a vague tease of what's coming afterwards, I do think we're looking a little bit too far into the future to be even thinking about 7.0 when we're still waiting for 6.0. But what he's basically saying is that don't worry, just because this story is going to end, it does not mean that it's going to be over for good. We still have plenty more adventures in different places to explore for the rest of the world, and not even in this world. There are other realms, time travel, other dimensions that could be waiting for us. So, I especially do like the idea of maybe time traveling. That would be amazing to actually explore more of Eorzea's history, or maybe even before the pre-Sundered days. Now, there has been a rumor that was going around about the idea that maybe once Endwalkers is over, everything will reset. So basically, it's going to be us starting over from scratch. There are players that are actually worried that we're going to be getting like a complete reboot, just like how 1.0 was rebooted. Yoshi-P did explain that we'll never see something like that again. So it's not like when Endwalkers is over, everyone is going to get amnesia, or the meteor Dalamud will come down again and the realm's destroyed and everything just has to reset. That's not going to happen. We have no intention of negating all that has happened in the story. We don't want to negate the adventure that you went on, the characters that you met along the way, and the achievements that you accomplished throughout your journey. So when we are looking to that transition and moving forward to the next chapter of that story, it's safe to assume that this is still taking place in the same universe, so to speak. Which is a really big relief for me, because I was actually kind of worried about that, but after hearing that, it really touched me, because they are still going to be building on all the lore and history of this world, because it now actually feels like a real, genuine world. It feels like maybe this is all part of some ancient history that we're just not aware of, and that all of this could have happened. They just put so much love and care into this game, and that just really makes me feel just so passionate about this game as well. Their passion is just kind of infectious, and just about anyone who plays it just feels that. You can see it. You can like hear it in like all the characters. It's just amazing. And so while I am a little bit sad to see the story come to an end, it just makes me more excited about the stories that do come afterward. Now, Yoshi-P does admit that it is a pretty long gap for players to have to wait, but because of the pandemic, a lot of Shadowbringers was postponed because of that, and players are going to have to wait a very long time before we can get to Endwalker, which is not scheduled to come out till November. To help pass the time though, Yoshida strongly recommends replaying some of the main story from the previous expansions, including A Realm Reborn. And if you don't want to go back and just start a brand new game with new character and everything, you can go back and play the characters of previous expansions with the New Game Plus, so that it's fresh in your memory when you jump into Endwalkers. Which is going to be a really nice thing, because we're familiar with a lot of characters, and a lot of dialogue from these characters might carry a different meaning after you experience everything that happened in Shadowbringers. And it really helps to go back and really see and experience it all again, just because you know exactly what happened and you know the truth now, at least most of the truth. Maybe another key is to look out for when Hydaelyn calls out to you and see how many times she's called upon you. There's also going to be job quests. Some people might like to skip over them, but there are going to be a lot of characters that are going to be making an appearance in Endwalker that might be a good place to look at as well. So it looks like a lot of characters from not only the main scenario questline, but also side quests, job quests, role quests, those are going to be coming back. And Yoshi-P did come out and say that it's going to be a good time to be able to really see these characters make an appearance, so that it's a good place to really see them all together. And basically, it does sound like not everyone's going to make it out alive. I am betting that we are going to be getting some deaths in the future. We don't know who yet, but probably a lot of characters that we may have grown to care about. Anyway, everyone, that is everything I have to say so far about the 2 interviews. Again, if you want to read them yourselves, you can just go down to the description box and you can actually click on those and it will take you right there. And that's everything that we know so far from those 2 interviews about Endwalkers and what's going to be coming after. So we have a lot to digest, and we still have a lot of time to really decide what we want to do in the game and just kind of wait it out. I'm afraid there's really not much more we can do about that. But yeah, I am planning on doing a series of other videos as we go on through the months and we get closer to Endwalker, including lore videos, discussions, predictions. So if anyone out there has any kind of suggestions or ideas that you might want me to talk about or maybe look on about, or maybe if you just want to hear my own personal opinion of it, please drop a comment down below and let me know. I have a whole list of things I'm going to be talking about, and it's going to be my goal to get through all of those. And hopefully by the time I'm finished, Endwalker will be just around the corner. So until next time, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day. And yeah, take care.